Good morning, happy Monday. Welcome to Sales Chatter. We are streaming live from our LinkedIn page today. So we'll make an announcement if we should have definitely got on that, Dan. But I
Oh,
am your
that's
host.
right. Shoot. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is what it is, man. That's how we roll here, the ad hoc kind of thing. But it's Sales Chatter, the logistics podcast, where we aim to help 10,000 reps hit a million GP. I'm your co-host, Ryan Mohammed, aka the Logistics Monk. With me is the man who speaks fluent sarcasm. So do not take anything he says with a grain of salt. I'm just joking. Dan Deigan, what's going on,
Well,
brother?
it all depends. You can tell by the tone of my voice sometimes. Uh, I'm struggling today, Ryan. I'm struggling today, brother. I'm bringing it. I'm going to bring the energy, but I'm telling you, man, I might need a nap after.
Oh, yeah, we all need those Monday naps, So let's get into it, and hopefully it will wake you up a little bit.
That annoying.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
And there we go. So, like you
There we
said, bro.
go.
So yeah, I'll leave it with you, man. What's been going on? What you eat on the weekend? As we're trying to get everything going on here, I feel like I put that in the description here. What's going on?
Yeah. Morning, DJ. Brother, it was finally, like, I don't know what it is, but obviously everybody, right? The sunshine just livens things up, and we've had, gosh, it feels like 2.5 weeks of rain here. I mean, but the grass is green. That, like, I see tulips coming up all over the place. Really, really amazing at this time of year, right? It's just, to me, it's just really amazing how nature wakes up, and the trees and, like, the world kind of wakes up at this time of year, and just the smells in the air, and being able to, I cut my grass, and I love the smell of fresh cut grass. But yeah, I think I might have done too much this weekend, buddy. I might have overexerted myself. Let's put it that way, because I've been, man, I'm doing all the things we talk about. I like blasting tunes. I'm going inside myself to get the energy. I've watched a few YouTube videos this morning. Like, I'm just trying. I'm standing. I'm sitting. I'm standing. I'm sitting. I'm like, nah, it doesn't feel good. Doesn't feel right. Ah, whatever. We'll just grind her
It is
out,
the
man.
It is the one day though. It's the one day, sorry, the one weekend that we got really, really good weather. So I know for us, same thing. You try to do everything in that 24 hours, and you just can't. Do I want to barbecue today? Do we want to go sit on a patio today? Do we want to take the dogs on a long hike? Do we want to take them to the water park and things like that? So I get what you're saying. I think that's one big thing to understand. Is like, hey, go with what your body tells you, because at the end of the day, you can't push forward unless you kind of go with that. But today is our days that we're bringing back the Monday Madness. So
Yeah,
I think you got
man,
something.
Monday Madness.
Yeah.
I
So
do. Now
tell
let me ask you
everybody.
a question before we go there. Let me ask you a question. Do you feel that with the rain, and, like, for the last 2.5, 3 weeks, raining on the weekends, raining during the week for the most part, do you feel like you're behind in where you should be in your summer preparation?
Okay, so summer prep, I would
Yeah.
say
Now
okay.
you
So
might, because I know you're getting your backyard done this year, so you
yeah,
might
so I would
not
say no.
be
Yeah,
there
I would
yet.
say
Okay.
no. In terms of that, I think when it comes to like summer preppers, like so we're getting our backyard done. We're getting that done in the next couple of weeks and things like that. But I would say even with the rain and things like that, no, I would like all we have to do is our backyard, right? So the only thing really like we have our deck and then like our barbecue's covered. So I just gotta really move the sheet, make sure we got gas and all that stuff. But no, I don't
Okay.
think so. I think the summer cleaning, like opening all the vents and doing the furnace checks and all that stuff, we kind of get that taken care of
Yeah,
early, a little
because
bit
you're
early on.
inside raining. So when you are finished your backyard,
Yeah.
and you have all the lawn furniture and the umbrellas and all this kind of stuff, you have to find some. You have to put it away in the winter, right? So you, into your shed, like stack it in your shed or
I think we're
whatever.
just gonna cover it, man. I think we're just gonna let it rip, man.
Really?
Well, yeah, why not, man?
No, buddy. You
Yeah,
buy
I
that
think we're just
stuff
gonna let it
for a
rip. I
long
think,
time. No,
yeah, I think we'll let
Ryan.
it. I don't know. We'll decide. Well, when we get to that point, because I think with what we're looking at, my wife and I, even though it sounds like we're getting our backyard done. And disclaimer, we've been in our house, it's a brand new house for about 2 years, but we're looking at the next step. We're looking at the next. We're hoping, knock on wood, that we're in a not a better place. I love this house. This house is amazing, but we're hoping that we're in our forever home by next year. So who knows? Like, maybe we'll
That's
put
gonna
all
be up
that.
near me, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Where
My
you have
wife
the
is all
country.
always sending me sending stuff on Aaron, but I'm like, the internet, man. I just got good
Oh
internet,
no,
you know.
no,
So-
dude. We as long as you're not on a line. Like if you're out on the line, you might have that ExploreNet issue. But
Mm,
anywhere around here, we're on Rogers. I've got what 3 gig download or 2 gig or whatever it is. Like my internet doesn't go down.
yeah. So we'll see. You know what? Whatever the
You
Lord
be
plans, we'll
be
be
all
there.
right.
So we'll be
Yeah.
neighbors over there. But Dan, explain before we get into the topic, because like we said, we got a lot of new viewers kind of coming on, either watching this live or watching this on the replay. What are we doing on Mondays? We're not just winging
So
it here.
this is this goes back to the beginning when DJ and I sat down and said, how in the hell are we gonna like figure out the daily themes, keep it interesting, keep people coming back, keep people wanting. So I actually believe it was DJ that came up with Mayhem Mondays. I don't know if we're going to keep that name, but in essence, what it was kind of Monday was that day where we do a training. And it's one of those days where it's nothing planned. And so what we did is, for all of you that don't know, we had a stack of cards like this, and on each of them is a different training, strategy, theory, idea. And then we do one of these, and you say stop, and wherever we stop, um, we have a topic. So, for example, this one is 3 most important questions to ask your client every quarter.
Mm,
So we go and then we talk about it. And so that was the concept of Mayhem Mondays, to really start the week with a really cool training that you can then implement over the next 5 days.
mm.
And for that particular one, what we would do at the end is we'd say, okay, so now you as the viewer have to go. Your cards are fire. Thanks, DJ. You have to go and do it. And what it was is, it was, here's the training. Tuesdays maybe we'll bring a tool to help you with the Mondays training, and then that kind of idea went through almost the whole week, right? Because Data Day
Mhm.
Wednesday, and then personal development Thursday, and mindset and all that kind of stuff, and then Fun Day Friday. But to really start the week off with a pretty friggin' cool strategy, training concept, or idea to help you actually move forward, because there's right, Ryan. What do we say? We're here to help 10,000 sales reps generate $1 million GP.
Yep.
Sure, we can sit here and just talk logistics, and somebody's going to get an idea. But if we don't bring hardcore training that we've personally used to generate $1 million GP, I think we're not fulfilling our motto to our viewers. That's where
100%.
it came from.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like, we're trying to help somebody. If one person says, "Hey," and I think we brought this back because like we've had numerous comments from newer reps in the industry saying, "Hey, I use this and this helped, and this came out of the blue," right? So you know what? Let's get those cards ripping, man.
All
Let's go,
right.
man. We got to get
All
some
right.
music going on here.
Yeah, yeah. So put some tunes on. Put a little lounge music on. There we go. And then you tell me when to stop.
Let's go. Stop.
Oh, this is one I love. Everything is scheduled after the first contact. So, yeah. So
Ooh.
this one is really good, because this one for me, Okay, so before I say anything, what does that mean for you, Ryan?
Yeah, so that what that means for me is that there's nothing in limbo. I'm a big believer ever since we even getting to the first call, Dan. So let's take a little uphill step backwards
Hmm.
here. So when I'm in my prospecting blocks, working the 2 hour blocks with the aim of trying to make it 50 calls, just to kind of shoot like try to get to people, I don't try to actually have a call with a prospect about business there. My intention for the first touch is always to get something scheduled on the calendar so they can put up their feet, I can put up my feet because I remember when I first started that the intention was to like get business on the first call or things like that. But I find that I'm able to set that scheduled. With that being said, Dan, I don't know if you agree with this or not, but when I have like my prospects and things like that, I do not do research. I kind of go through a call
Hmm.
list, call them,
Yep.
book that meeting, and then once we
Yep.
have that scheduled meeting in our calendar, then I'll do the research because I
Yep.
feel like a lot of people get in that analysis paralysis, and
Yep.
let's say the prospect doesn't pick up or it's not a fit for them. Why would I do that research for them and it just doesn't work? So for me, scheduled, it's always about, I kind of label that as next steps. There's always going to be next steps to every single thing you do. And, full transparency, like I think about it when I was like dating my girlfriend, my wife who's my girlfriend at the time, that every date, we always kind of be like, okay, cool. This day was amazing. Movies tomorrow. Like, you always kind of
Yeah.
set that intention of what's the next steps going to be. And I think when you have those, after the first call, everything should be scheduled. And with that being said, after each call, I'll always send an email, a template. I actually have a template for next steps. Okay, we talked about these top 3 things. This is what you need from me. I'll have this to your desk by, let's say, end of day tomorrow or the next week, whatever it is, whatever you kind of go from
Hmm.
there. But everything should be scheduled because you don't want to get into the notice. Oh, why aren't they answering my calls? Why aren't they answering my emails, or what are they thinking? I think
Hmm.
we get into that mindset a little bit. We talk about analysis paralysis, but we get into that mindset a lot that, hey, the customer doesn't care about me. And at the end of the day, they don't owe you anything. But when you have everything scheduled, then you don't leave nothing up to chance. You control the controllables.
Yes. Yes. I love that. You nailed that. You couldn't have nailed it better. As
Oh,
DJ
sorry.
says, nailed it, Ryan. It's I'll tell you, when I first started, it was always by chance. I never scheduled the next call.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was chasing SEAL Team 6 while they were going after Osama bin Laden. You know what I mean? Like, it's just zero dark 30. You don't hear anything from anyone. And you start questioning yourself. And then all of a sudden you get on the phone. And what I always found was, it was, who are you again? And you spend 20 minutes of the 20 minutes you literally have, or 10 minutes of the 10, or 5 of the 5, going back over your conversation. They're still like, yeah, sorry, man, I don't remember. Can you resend me your information? I'd be like, okay, sure, yeah. And I'd resend the information and never get a next step.
Yeah.
And so this concept kind of came to me when I realized that when we put something on the calendar before we end a call, the sales process moves so much faster, so much faster. And one big thing with it I found was, when a prospect would miss the follow-up call, it would be a, man, I'm sorry, I owe you. And I felt like, okay, now, for lack of a better term, now you owe me one, right? Because we had a scheduled time. And so for me, it was that, always before I hung up the phone, as soon as I would connect with you, before we hung up the phone, I would establish when we're going to talk next. And
Yeah.
then I would do things like you said, where you would send an email. I'd kind of do a follow-up between follow-ups to stay in front of their minds. I'd send them some articles, and that's actually another topic that we could talk about. But like, you lose time chasing ghosts when you do this. And I love the fact when they would miss a scheduled call, and I'd send an email, because I'd wait on, I'd call or give voicemail. I'd leave a voicemail, and I'd send an email saying, hey, Ryan, sorry I missed you today. We had a call scheduled at 2 o'clock. Our original call was here, and it was a couple of weeks out. I probably should have maybe reached out yesterday to make sure you were still available. My apologies for I'd kind of take it back on myself as to why we missed the call, because I feel like that has always been a gold standard in sales, where you kind of give the prospect an out for missing the call.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should have followed up with you yesterday. I know your schedule changes all the time. Even if they accepted the calendar invite, And
Yep.
some people you might agree with it, some people might disagree with it. I've just always I've been of that Bob Berg philosophy of, in the Go Giver series of books with him and John David Mann, he talks about all the time. He talks about like always giving the prospect an out. And
Yeah.
I always found the return would be, Dan, I'm so sorry, man. I owe you. When is good for you? For the most part. I mean, obviously there's people that still don't return the call because they're off on another tangent. But for the most part, it was always came back to be beneficial in the end because they felt like they owed me something. Like when you have a scheduled call and you miss it, regardless of what it is, you kind of feel bad, do you not?
100%, 100%, no
Yeah.
matter what it is. And I think, now what I see, Dan, with like my current prospecting is that I feel like a lot of meetings get canceled when you get that like 15-minute reminder on Outlook. So that is like controlling controllables, right? For me, what's worked for me is that, hey, in the beginning of the day, I'll send a quick email, just be, or even a quick text if we get to that. I'm a big texter now, with prospecting things like that. Be like, hey, looking forward to our conversation. And what I will do, Dan, in that email is I will say exactly what we're going to talk about, the theme of whatever the meeting is, because everyone kind of does a discovery call or introduction call, and everybody feels like, hey, I'm going to go list off a bunch of questions. I'm going to find about your businesses, where your facilities, all that stuff. I'm like, okay, well, these are the three things I really want to learn from this call. So I leave something up that I can learn things on like second, the third, fourth, fifth calls, seventh calls. Because let's call a spade a spade. If you're having a first call with a customer, I mean a prospect, you're going to leave that call with something to quote on. I just feel that every single call that I have, there's always going to be like, okay, we have these couple lanes. Okay, we're going to run this volume. You find out all those details, pertinent details. And then you're okay. You get back with your ops team, you figure out some rates, and you go back and it's either going to be yes or no. What is kind of going there and kind of get some feedback. I feel like the second actual schedule call is to get feedback. So
Yeah.
I think when you eliminate that by actually saying, hey, this is my intention for every single call that we have, having it scheduled in your calendar. And a tip that I've kind of learned, Dan, is that I don't schedule anything more than like 2 weeks out. I've learned in my own personal prospecting, if I schedule something like a month out, that's easier for them to actually kind of have like a way out to be like, oh no, I got something, or like the first of the month or first of the quarter. Just understand. And
Or
a
last
question that
couple
I
of
always
days of the month for month end or something.
Exactly. You just want to kind of
Mhm.
set it up in the right time. And a question that I always kind of use for my schedule stuff is, who else do you think needs to be there for this call? Because I find when there's more than one person, it's harder for them to back out. Right. So if you got
Yep.
like their team there with them, they're like two, and I bring on an ops person too. So that one-to-one meeting has kind of turned on to like a 5 to 6 person meeting. So it's
Yep.
harder for somebody to kind of cancel based on that. What are your
Well,
thoughts
and
on
if
something
they
like that?
have to, at least you have three or four other members of their team that are there,
Yeah.
right? And so there's that kind of the part of it as well, right? I love that idea. That brings us into like, not only everything is scheduled after another contact. If I do this, will you do that? And follow up between follow-ups, and there's a whole bunch of strategies crunched in the middle there because really the reality is if you get any kind of quotes, again, always with the perspective of always moving the conversation forward to the point where here's my qualification or you're disqualified. If it's qualified, you keep running around the baseball diamond till you reach home plate, right? And
Yeah.
that whole process of, okay, here, Ryan, I want you to get me these rates. Okay, if I get you the rates by Wednesday at noon, will you have time to look at them by Thursday at noon? If that's the case, can we get a call again, scheduling the call Thursday at say 1 o'clock?
Hmm.
Would that work for you? Yeah, that'll work. So then now your obligation is to get them to them by Wednesday at noon. They'll have a look by Thursday at noon. You've scheduled the next connection, and
Yeah.
now there's no guessing.
Yeah.
And that's how you're able to write those emails where, hey, I can't wait to talk to you. Your rates are coming on Wednesday. Wait till you see these things. They're going to be spectacular. And then, really looking forward to your feedback on Thursday at 1 o'clock, and you send the invite. You know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
best thing that I've ever found is you put the rates in the invite
Hmm.
because when they open the rates, they got the invite for the actual meeting that you have. And those are just very easy strategies to follow and to kind of step through as you're doing it's when we don't follow that
And that's what I think gets lost too. And I want to take that a step further, Dan, that even when they are a customer, it doesn't matter if we're moving a bunch of shipments or so many shipments, everything is scheduled. Like I have a certain day where like I know at a certain time, and I do send out the calendar invites anyways, but like my customer and I, we already know that we're gonna chat. We're
Yep.
gonna talk about, okay, we're gonna kind of shoot the shit, talk about business a little bit, but talk about a little bit more personal and actually work on the relationship, which I find is like the most important thing. You're trying to build a
Yep.
relationship with somebody, and things will come up. Hey, what are you seeing in the industry? Hey, I saw this article. What do you kind of think? And you have that business focus, but you're able to connect. But everything for me, Dan, I'll be realistic with you. Like even up into my day, let's talk a little bit about daily routines.
Yep.
Like my everything for me is scheduled. And people will be like, okay, we gotta kind of be spontaneous. I do leave an opportunity for be spontaneous, not with my business though. So we'll get back to personal, professional. It's just it works a lot better when it is, because let's say you have like a random call, you didn't schedule, you're picking up the phone, hey, I'm just gonna call John from ABC company, and I know he's gonna pick up, we're going great and stuff like that, but John just had 3 truckloads just come in late, or the material's not ready. He's got other things to prioritize rather than, hey, let's talk about the Leafs game last night, right?
Yep.
So I
Yep.
think like scheduling is and being aware of people's scheduling. That's why I'm a big fan of always in. Okay, so after that first call, let's talk about this. I don't like saying, hey, when are you free next? I like that if I do this, will you do that? But I like
Yes.
to give 2 dates. I'm a big fan of giving a morning date and an afternoon date. So
Yep.
I always kind of go with this: Tuesday between 9 and 12, or Thursday between 3 and 4. And kind of give them that balance there, and then actually book that meeting, because then it kind of sets it up too, right? Like if the prospect wants to talk more in the afternoons after dealing with their busy, or they want to get it out of the way in the morning as well.
Mhm. Well, I love that. And not to mention, this goes back to creating your business around your life,
Hmm.
right? So you talk personally, you talk professional. When we are controlling those dates, so maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday are appointment days, where all you do is book meetings. Tuesday, Thursdays are your call days where you're prospecting. Or Monday, Wednesday is your meetings where you're out of the office in meetings. Like you have a thing that you set for yourself, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday is in office. By doing that, saying okay, Tuesday from 11 to 2 or Thursday from 3 to 4, you're not giving the prospect the option of Monday or Wednesday because you're on the road.
Yeah.
I had a buddy that did trailer sales, and he did that during some of the roughest times in '08 and '09. And the guy, he was just consistent, and he programmed his prospects and programmed his customers on days he was out. He didn't book anything except all he did was travel around to visit people. And he
Yep.
just would stop in with coffees and all that kind of stuff. And he became like the number one trailer salesman in for his company in 2010. 24 months of doing it changed his life forever.
Yep.
And that's the dedication. We talk about that all the time. That's the important piece. You know, when we schedule everything after we make a connection and say, okay, you're qualified. I want to do business with you. Like that is everything for a professional salesperson to stay organized.
Yep.
Everything. Because otherwise you're coming in, you're going, okay, I got 15 calls to make today. None of them remember you. You spend and if you even get 3 of the 15 on the phone, realistically, now you're re-explaining your conversations over and over and over and over and over again. And you just feel like you're spinning your wheels. And that's where frustration comes in. That's where all these compounded issues that we have inside this internal conversation we're having, that's where it goes to shit because it never
Yeah.
moves forward. It'd be
Yeah.
like, you talked about when you were dating your wife. It'd be like, okay, well, we had a great movie. Do you want to do dinner on Thursday? Well, what if you were to call her, you do, a movie on Tuesday and you call her on Wednesday and say, hey, or Thursday and say, hey, do you want to do dinner on Friday? And she goes, who are you?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh, we just went to the movies on Monday. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of busy Friday already. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's like you're not moving that step forward. And I don't know, to me, that is one of the most important aspects of sales is every phone call has to have a purpose. Every touch point has to have that purpose of moving the conversation forward or eliminating it so you can move on to somebody else. And even if that is, you call up the prospect and you have an okay conversation and you're like, it's more of a general conversation. You haven't qualified yet. And then that you book that first meeting. When you book that first meeting, you might realize you don't even want to work with this person. based on
Yep.
here's how we do it. This is what we do. This is how we do it. Da-da. And so, it's not necessarily even saying that you've qualified them before you've actually created that next contact point, because they might not have the time at this point. You got to remember, right? It's inbound calls, right?
Yeah.
We talked about this when you were at when we were out for lunch with Drew, and we talked about when you were at the call center and all these inbound calls, right? Or was it Drew? I think it was Drew that was talking about
Yeah.
all these inbound calls, and for him to make these outbound calls is no big deal. But you're making an outbound call to somebody that's not necessarily just sitting there going, "Man, I can't wait for Ryan to call me today," right? Like,
Yep.
so a little different situation, but it's also a fact that if you don't create that next connection point, it's up in the air.
Yeah, yeah, you can't have you can't let it by like the one thing that we always kind of say too is just like control the controllables. And the one big thing for me is just like there's so many few things that we as logistics, if you're a freight broker, which we are, if you're a freight broker that you can control. You can't control the driver, you can't control the truck, you can't control the material. You're physically not there, but things like this, these are out. We're talking about inputs and outputs, right? You can control your outputs. You cannot control your inputs because, like you're saying, like if you're an inbound call center, you can't control when your next call is going to come. But I can control what my next prospecting call is going to be. I can
Yeah.
control my next call to my shipper. And I like what you said about your friend who's like the trailer sales rep for like
Yeah.
24 months. That's why I've instituted like using Calendly. Calendly is like my biggest thing that I kind of use. So anytime somebody's like, "Hey, I want to book some time on your calendar," here's my link, and I actually purposely do it just in the afternoons, Monday to Thursday, because I know that these are the times that I have available and that I'll be present. I won't be hit with a missile because I don't want to take morning calls because I know I might get hit with a missile. Something's kind of happened there and back. But I think when it comes coming back to what we're kind of talking about with scheduling everything from there, you get to replay it and it gets to stay fresh. And that's where you get to stay your notes, right? Because you look at like one of these like a book that we all kind of use. This is where I kind of write down all my notes, right? But who wants to go into a meeting when they're like, oh my god, okay, is it on this page, is it on this page, is it on that page? You want to have everything recapped, and make it easy, short and concise. That's why we kind of talk about, hey, don't spray and pray like your emails, stuff like that. Make it concise, make it easy for the customer, man. If we had one of those staple buttons, you just want to just keep making it easy for them, or like, like, hey, I did this for you. In terms of that, like, why would you want your prospect to do the work, including like booking the next meeting? Take that over. You book the Zoom call. You book the time that you guys are going to talk. You book talking to like their other people in their departments and things like that. You got to control that because you got to show that initiative, Dan.
100%. I think before we close off, let's go a step further with this if we can, Ryan.
Mhm.
So share with everyone how you suggest to create the next connection, how you speak to the prospect or speak to a customer or anything when it comes to booking the next meeting. How
Okay.
exactly, like, share some strategies with that? Because I think a lot of people are going to like, yeah, okay, obviously, I call a prospect, and that makes sense that I should connect all the time. But how? Like, what if they're trying to
Mm.
blow me off? How do I schedule that next call?
Of
And
course.
then we'll end with that because I think that's very important.
Yeah. So for me, I do a little bit differently, but I actually do the next steps at the beginning of the call. So whenever I kind of get on the call, I tell them, hey, this is what the intention, this is what I'm looking to do for you. And here's the next steps that I would like to kind of and I always kind of give a story, Dan. In terms of like based on previous conversations that I had with customers, because I know this is going to take maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I do not go for the 30 minutes to an hour call. I just find like for myself, it's just not feasible. I kind of want to get there in and out a little bit. So I set up the next steps at the beginning and at the end of the call. So we get our information, we get them talking, and with anybody that who's kind of doing the prospecting calls, just always remember, keep your mouth silent. There's a reason why we have two ears and one mouth, right? So even if you got to hit mute on there while they're talking and you're writing notes and things like that, I get to the next steps at the beginning. I set that expectation that regardless of what we say on this first call, we're going to be talking another time. This is not a one and done. So like we get kind of blown off. Hey, we talked about it last week. Customer routed, or we got to wait till RFP in September, but it's May. It's like you don't have to wait till those days. So my strategies is booking at the beginning of the conversation, at the end of it as well, saying, "Hey, this is what we've talked about. I would love to have a further conversation with you. How do these times work?" After we get off the phone, send that email. And in the email, Dan, I'm a big believer in saying, um, can you just reply to make sure that you got it correctly? Even though it's the right
Yeah.
email and the right domain, I always make them confirm. Did I get this right? And I think people always want to answer questions. And let's say they say yes, we schedule that next meeting. Maybe like 48 hours before, I'll just be like, hey, I'm really excited. Everything is going to plan here. And then on the day of, I don't wait for that 15-minute timer because I find my cancel rate is pretty high if I do not send a morning email or even morning call or a morning text. Looking forward to it. And then when we hop on that second call, I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing the next steps at the beginning and at the end.
I love that. I actually like that. I'm gonna have to try that. I I tend to sprinkle a little bit of the next steps throughout the call, and then at the end, I do the same thing. I do a story, and the story is along the lines of, I'm sure you've been there before, where kind of with your daily schedule, things get lost. I'm a huge advocate of my calendar. Can you live without your calendar? I mean, I can't live. You know what I mean? And most of them are like, oh no, if I didn't have my calendar, especially growing up with my kids and this and that, like the calendar was a life. And I find it very valuable in business as well. I'd really love an opportunity now that we've connected. I don't want to miss you anymore. Based on what we talked about, and I reiterate a little bit of the story, I said I'd love to schedule a next call, and that's when I go into the if I do this, will you do that, and and then we can talk about those topics maybe another day. But I love the fact that you actually, so you're kind of like that Oprah philosophy where before she sits down at any meeting, she goes, "What's the intention of this meeting?
Yeah.
What is
Yeah.
the purpose of this call?" And I love that. I love that. I think that's a missed
Well, I think like,
opportunity a lot of
everyone's like
people don't
I
do.
when I got into the industry, everybody wants to cater to the prospect, everybody wants to cater to the customer because at the end of the day, let's call it spade spade. You and I have said this so many times. We're calling them because we want business with them. We want to build a genuine relationship with them. And yes, we want it, and that's a part of building a relationship. But if they don't have freight, then realistically, we can be talking for X amount of hours. You're just gonna be wasting your time from there. But for me, it's just like, how can I know that they know that I'm about business and I'm not this like the 20th broker to call them. And that's why I kind of say like I work like as a consultant. That's the way that I kind of let me find out a bit about you. No risk, no hassle. Give you guys like a free trial or something like that to work with that. But I do not feel like I want to be another broker and stand out. And people talk about like standing out and things like that, whether it be like sending gifts or doing different videos and all that stuff. But I feel whatever works for you and comfortability. And Dan, you know this, right? The longer you do this, the tighter your qualification funnel is really going to be. You
Yeah.
hear the tone. Like I'm a big tonality guy. So once I
Mhm.
kind of hear the tone, okay, yeah, this is probably not going to work. So I just think it's
Mhm.
really important to not waste your time. And that's what I was trying to get to. It's just understand that my time is just as valuable as their time. And no one has
Yeah.
more valuable. Don't put any, and it's the same thing with like dating anybody, Dan. You don't put anybody on a pedestal. You don't think of like, oh my God, this person's like out of my league and all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, no, no. We're all humans at the end of the day trying to do
We
something.
all put our pants on one leg at a time.
There we go. So
Yep. Yeah,
that's
and
awesome.
you're absolutely right, Ryan. It took me years to figure out that I was worth something in this industry. Decades, like almost 2 decades. Literally, it was probably my 17th year where I went, "Holy crap! Hold on, I'm valuable to these people. Like
Yeah.
I really am." And when you have a logistics partner that knows the industry, that cares like we care, you're valuable. You really are. And I'm glad you brought that up to end today because like I don't think I think too many of us when we get into it, it's like you feel like a telemarketer, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, well, how am I going to be any different than the person they're using now? I don't know. I really don't. You need to figure that out on your own, but you are.
Hmm.
And that's what it is. And when you figure that out, sure, it's always going to be, I know there's always going to be that argument 20 years in the industry versus 2 days in the industry. There's a huge educational gap there. And 20 years in the industry, sure, you can fall back on situations and all that. But even at 20 years in the industry, if you don't raise your skill level,
Yeah.
you're going to fall flat of what you're truly capable of. And I think that in the end is the big thing it's not what Ryan's capable of. I can never, everything I do, I can't sit there and say, well, Ryan did that better because that's what Ryan's capable of.
Yep.
Like we're gonna go snowmobiling in the winter, and the first thing you're gonna say, because everybody does it when I go snowmobiling with them for the first time and they don't snowmobile. They're like, holy shit, man, you can move. And
Yeah.
it's not ego. It's just I've been snowmobiling for
It's
like
just life.
25 years, right?
It's just life,
Exactly.
man. Yeah.
But you're not going to get off the snowmobile at the end of the day and go, fuck, man, I wish I could move. Like, it's like, it's going to be like, man, this is cool. I like it because you're going to have your own journey inside of that.
Yep. Yep.
It's like,
Well,
I have buddies who golf twice a year and shoot
I
in
was
the
just gonna
mid
say, man.
70s, low
I was just
70s.
gonna say that about golf. You know, like the first times I started going with the company I'm with, I was invited because we got like a weekly tournament, and I was like, "Oh my god, like I suck, but am I gonna like not do that?" And like, you know, I went and took lessons. I went and I got a set. You know, I didn't have to borrow anybody's set, and there's levels to this. But I want to say something about this to kind of close it
Go
off
for it.
as well. Is that I've seen guys be in the industry, guys and gals be in the industry for like a short amount of time, but their curiosity and their ability to learn as they kind of go along is what actually separates them from the. I'll be real with you. I would pit five new people up against five very experienced person because that experienced person might have the way. Oh, this is the way we do things. You know, the goal, the gentleman's club. We got to golf. We got to do this and this. And it's just like no, those five newer people, they would blow them out of the water because they have that passion. And I think you
Yeah.
can't teach passion. Passion has to come to you. And I'm just on a firm belief. This is a controversial topic, Dan. So we're not gonna get canceled for saying this, but I'm a big believer. Like honestly, like if you're in the industry for 20 years, man, you've kind of done something a little bit wrong because there's so much money to be made in this industry that you should have gotten out and like pursued your passion. You know, you should have gone and done something
Mm.
completely different. And that's just my personal opinion because I see the amount of money in this industry, and it's just like people become millionaires in here. It's just like, why wouldn't you want to go do something with a passion project? Why are you still traveling at your age to go meet people when you could have people do that for you and spend time with your kids, your grandkids at that point of view? Like to me personally, I'm sorry to say that, but it's just like go get a life, man. Like go do something completely
I
different.
I hear you. I think people get caught up in it.
Mm,
Like I know quite a few people that have retired from this industry, very done very well for themselves and retired. Put away money. We're in the industry 30 years, you know, started at the old school days in the industry, put away money, and that have done very well for themselves. Been at the same company for 30 years, sold their business to the company, got, you know, a pretty big payout to leave their business where it was, kind of thing, and love life.
yeah,
That's what they wanted.
right off to the
That's what
sunset.
they wanted to do, you know. And again, Ryan, you know, I honestly think it goes back to we plan our vacations more than we plan our lives. So we get up every day, we go to work, we make money. Maybe we invest it, maybe we spend it, maybe we, you know, I know people that are mid 50s, if they stopped working, they'd be in a really bad spot because they just love spending money, you know, and it's, we have them all in between, you know.
Hmm.
I think it's the younger generation that have that long-term plan that the older generation doesn't.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I really do. And no offense to anyone that's older, it's just I think this is what it is that, you know, the younger generation says, well, you know, like you, for example, okay, so I hope you don't mind me sharing,
of
your
course.
end mission in life is a dog sanctuary.
Yeah,
Everything you do, and then I'm just talking business, right? I'm not talking
yeah, yeah.
personal and wife and kids and all that, because there's those whys on those. But that business why is I want to make enough money to open a dog sanctuary. When I started, it was I was a grade 9 dropout. It was like I want that Porsche. I want that
Mm,
BMW. I want to drive that nice car. I'd go to one of my colleagues' places and he was in this beautiful condo, floor to ceiling windows. I'm like, I want this condo.
yeah,
Never did I think of I want like a dog sanctuary or I want to run a training company or anything. That was later in my career where I was like, hold on, am I really going to do this for the rest of my life or am I going to help other people really achieve their true potential? And that's when, but never once. And I bet you I could have gone to every single person in that company and any company around me and said, you know, in 10 years, what do you really want to do? And they'll be like, I don't know. I'm going to be moving freight. Like I'm
yeah.
making so much money. Why would I do anything? Right?
Tunnel
It's just,
vision, right? Yeah.
yeah, 100%. And I love the fact that, like, if somebody were to look at what you do from the outside, okay, they're blown away. They got to be blown away because all week you're striving for this big pillar in logistics, both in your personal business with this show, with the people you connect with, and on the weekends you're out saving animals. Like Ryan, you're truly remarkable, brother. Like you really are.
No, I'm downplaying,
And
man.
nobody, no. See, this is the problem: is you're not giving yourself enough clout, enough credit, and enough props for what you do. See, you're not just saying it, you're living it.
Yeah.
And there's a big friggin' difference. We just talked about this with the Leafs. They look lazy. They don't want it as bad as Florida. They just don't. That you can tell in the body language. They get defeated as a champion, right? You look at Olympic champions. They train for 4 years for 45 seconds of their life.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like champions, they can go down, but they're like, I'm never giving up. And they give it their all right to the end instead of stopping, 2 more strides and they could have been at that puck and then they stop, right? Like that's just unfortunately the majority of people in life will stop 2 strides before they reach their goals.
Yep.
Because it's just like it's never going to happen. But to watch you go through this, I'm telling you, man, you're a remarkable, remarkable young man. And I don't mean that. I don't want to sound like I'm.
It's all good, man. It's all good. No, I truly appreciate it.
Brother, right?
100%, brother. And I truly appreciate that, man. I think it's just a perspective in life, and I just want to touch on this before we kind of close off today. But when you're talking about like when you got in the industry at 19, and you wanted like the car and you wanted the condo, and I think as your life kind of progresses, because when I got in the industry, I wanted the same thing too. But then I've acquired those things. Like I got the house, I got the cars, There's nothing material right now that I would possibly want. Like I literally have everything I need, and it's just like, okay, well, how can I? There's a big exchange in the universe, right? And we're kind of bringing it back to customers, right? It's like if you have something to help somebody with, and shout out to Anthony and Brandy in here because I know they live this. They live helping their customer, making ship happens. I think that's one of their things that they kind of say, but they generally want to help customers attain their goals. And we'll leave what that looks like in future episodes. So, it was an amazing episode to talk about this, to kind of start this off the week, which I think is amazing. Dan, your top 3 takeaways from today's, and we'll close this bad boy up.
I'm so glad you didn't say short.
No.
So top 3 takeaways. I mean, obviously the main thing, schedule everything after your first connection. It will really, really, really help you move that sales timeline. Number 2, again, I think we say it every single time, but just be authentic. Like you got to remember when you're calling somebody, their first thought is you're trying to get in my wallet.
Yeah.
Right. You never meet somebody and within 30 seconds say, hey, do you want to get married? Because then you're like that creepy dude at the bar that everybody runs from. Right. And number 3, I'm going to say something that probably happens to most people, but it's very rarely talked about. Relax when you're on your first call.
Yes.
Just
breathe.
chill. Like just breathe. You are you. You're worth something. Don't like Ryan said, we all put our pants on one leg at a time. Reality is, and for all you customers watching, I'm sorry, but you're no better than any of us. There's no pedestals here. The idea is to help you achieve your goals. By helping you achieve your goals, I achieve my goals. Everybody wins. As Dean says, leave a little bit more on the table. Just breathe. Take a breath. Like if you get hung up on nobody around you cares, nobody cares. No.
There we go.
There we go.
Vina's like, let's go. So if you did find value in this, please like, share, subscribe. Subscribe to our new page on LinkedIn, Sales Chatter Live. We go live every single day at 11 a.m. And, if you found value added, please send it with a friend, a neighbor, your amazing Amazon driver that's coming today with your packages. So we'll hit the replay back again at 2 p.m. Eastern time. And Dano, tell everybody, tell the folk about our amazing website that's going on, how they can get a hold of us. Take it home, my man.
Again, everybody, Sales Chatter Live is where we're going to be broadcasting from. We did a very bad job of sharing that all with you today. And then also we've created our new salesphatterlive.com website. That's salesphatterlive.com. We have every tool we talked about. And Ryan, maybe we'll put your email template as this week's tool.
Yeah, let's do it.
That you talked about when you reply, that we talked about at the beginning of the show, what Ryan uses when he replies to a customer after a call. We'll throw that in as this week's tool for you guys. So go there, www.salesphatterlive.com. Right on the homepage, about midway down, you can download all the tools that we talk about on the show, and we're going to keep adding the tools to our blog. You can actually watch the show live from our website as well. No comment section. Maybe we should put I'm going to do a little Facebook comment section down there and below that.
There we go.
Just add a little detail. But yeah, that's where we're at now, everybody. So pay attention. Go make sure you tell everybody that we're now broadcasting through Sales Chatter Live.
There we go. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care, everybody.